Welcome back to the Immortal Podcast. My boy Nemo and I are here with episode 20 to talk to all of you about Diablo Immortal. Changes that we think may be coming, changes that we think need to come to the game, because right now, we don't have it in hand anymore. The closed alpha is gone, Nemo, and we have nothing to do but to think back on our experience inside Diablo Immortal and think about what we want to see different, what needs to be changed. Now, Nemo and I are massive fans of the game. We love it. We support it 100%, but of course, we can still critique things along the way as well. That's just kind of a natural thing. So before we get into it, I want to say what's up to everybody that's in the chat. Remember, this is a podcast that's interactive with all of you. So your questions are really what drive this show. We'll start out with a few topics, and then we'll start taking your questions from the chat, either on Twitch or on YouTube. And if you're watching this as a video later on, you can leave your questions in the comments section, and Nemo and I could always pull those from a video, because Nemo, you too make content for Diablo Immortal now, don't you?
I do make content for Diablo Immortal. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to be back here. We haven't done the podcast in a couple of weeks now. I've been dying to get back here and talk Immortal. So yeah, let's get started.
Let's do that. Let's get started. So I want to say what's up to Kevin Wadhams Brown and AES. What's up, guys? Nice to see you here in the chat with us, nice and early. So let's start off with changes, Nemo. There's a few things that I didn't love about Diablo Immortal in the closed alpha. In the technical alpha, I loved absolutely everything about the game. I knew that it wasn't complete. I knew that some things needed to be added to it. PvP, we all know that I'm talking about that. But I was very happy with everything that was implemented into the game. But with the closed alpha, which was phase 2 of the alpha, I didn't quite feel the same way. I was not personally a fan of the whole way that Shadows and Immortals worked. It, in my opinion, was for the average person getting into the game extremely confusing. First of all, it would take a lot of watching content from people like us to kind of break it down for you, or just getting your hands dirty, getting in there and learning as you go. I also did not love specifically the Immortals part of things and how exclusive that was. In addition to how exclusive it was, kind of how it was, you know, you get one dark house that's gonna win, and they're gonna basically control the entire server based on an army that they put together based on politics. So Nemo, speaking on those topics, you had more experience with the Immortals portion of the game than I did. What do you think about that? Are you in agreement with me? Do you disagree? Because that's cool too. How do you feel about that whole mechanic between the two?
I feel like it's really tough. It's really a double-edged sword here. I love it. I love the whole idea of having the lore and the extra modes, and the ability for anyone to jump into it if they want and play it. The ability for others not to play it if they don't want to. Extra rewards, all of that good stuff. I really love the whole fight between the Shadows and Immortals. I'm a big fan of factions within games. I played a lot of WoW. I'm really familiar with that. It's really cool. It adds a whole new layer to the game. But what I didn't like was some of the implementations within it. Like, I really didn't like the whole Shadow versus Immortals and how exclusive the Immortals were. I didn't like some of the activities that were tied to the Immortals. Basically, long story short, I didn't like the fact that the Immortals is an exclusive group, like you said. And a lot of people are not going to be able to experience that. Because once this goes live and once lots of people start joining, we all know that there's not going to be a whole bunch of servers. Yes, there's going to be regional servers and etc., but it's not going to be millions of them. So within those servers, the Immortals are even more exclusive, and some of the people are never going to be able to even see what Keon's ordeal is or how all that stuff works. And that to me is kind of, I feel like it's a bit of a miss, because it's such a beautiful thing. I want others to experience it as well.
Yeah, and I have to tack on to that. I feel the same way, and you have experienced every single piece of it probably in depth, and I didn't. I didn't, in this experience, dive into that Immortal stuff as deep as you did, partially because my interest was not as much in that. I was really enjoying, especially towards the last couple of weeks of the closed alpha, I was really enjoying the experience, just going through the campaign, upgrading, grinding my character, because remember, I did start as the Crusader, and I switched on over to the Barbarian. Crusader was incredible, loved it, but then I just kind of got the feeling like, I don't want to grind this one anymore. I want to go back to my favorite class, which was the barbarian. And I was enjoying that more, playing it on more of a casual level. So, hey, what's up? Thanks so much for coming in with that sub, Flashy. Nice to see you here. What's up, Champman Gaming as well? We got some old school family in here. Nice to see you guys over on Twitch. Thanks for coming through to support. So, I agree with, you're building out an incredible mechanic inside of the game. You're building out something that is, you know, exclusive to 500 players. Spending the time to create these events, create the mechanics of the game in that way, and then only 500 people can see it out of the 10, 20, 30,000 people that could be inside of a server. It seems like it's kind of a waste of resources to create a game mode that's just so incredible that so few people are going to actually get their hands on. So that's a problem. Nemo loves you too. I know he's not on screen right now, but he's throwing hearts your way, whoever was sending hearts to him. So I that's where I think it's kind of a miss. I prefer playing, and I'll bring back Nemo for this one, I prefer playing as a shadow. And the reason I like playing as a shadow is you don't miss on anything. You could participate in everything, and there's not really there's less of a grind being a shadow. There's less of a requirement to do your duties as a shadow. Now, definitely as a shadow, you have more duties than you would have if you were an adventurer. That's cool, I get it. But I felt as an immortal, not that it wasn't awesome, but I felt like it was a job. Like, you have to do these things every day. And it kind of, for me, took a little bit of the fun out of everything that was going on. What's up, Eric One Hive? How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you here. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about that overall. So what I'd like to see, a few changes that I'd like to see, Nemo, I'll start there, is I'd like to see the way that you get to be an immortal change. I don't think that one dark house should be able to then determine everyone else who's going to be the rest of the 500 in the immortal group. It gets too political. It's too much deal making. You know, if you do this for me, I'll make you an immortal. It's politics. And when you put politics inside of a game, it could do bad things, especially when servers are so big. You know, like, I also play Rise of Kingdoms. Servers are not as big. There's hundreds and hundreds of servers because they're just smaller. It's just how it's built. If a server's bad, you could move yourself to a new server. I don't know if that's going to be the case inside of Diablo Immortal. So if a server kind of goes bad, I feel like you're kind of stuck there, at least with how things are right now, because there's no type of server transfer. And if you have one, I mean, you could always sit back and play as an adventurer and just enjoy the game from that standpoint and not at all see any of the other stuff, not be impacted by it at all. But if you want to participate in that other stuff, it could be a little bit, you know, it could stink if it's run by people that are not, you know, upstanding citizens. I guess I'll put it as that. So, Nemo, do you think there's a way to have immortals and shadows where the immortals and shadows are not in any way based on politics? Like, let's say the top however many dark houses, if you're a top dark house, you then become an immortal and you have to work with the other dark houses now as the immortal. So you earn the spot, not just one dark house, the number one dark house getting that spot. It seems just wrong.
Yeah, I actually, that's one of my biggest gripes with this is the fact that when you are when you're a shadow, there's a couple of little issues here. When you're immortal and when you're a shadow, within the shadows themselves, it's a great mechanic. There's a lot of really awesome. The experience of being a shadow is great. I feel like it's actually better than being an immortal. We could touch on that in a little bit, where the immortal is more of like, when you are an immortal, you're more of like a soldier, but you're a foot soldier for a bigger cause. When you're a shadow, you're really playing for almost like yourself. What's great about the shadows is the fact that you can have dark houses and all of that. But what's not great about it is when you do complete the cycle and all of this whole thing turns, and the top dark house becomes the immortals, only they become immortals. So the other folks that help them, the Rite of Exile, we could talk about this for hours. We both made videos on this. You guys should definitely go check them out in detail. But the idea is only the first dark house wins, but you need all of them in order to overthrow the immortals. There's lots of politics that's going to be involved. And there are ways to possibly change that. There's always going to be politics when you have human beings involved. It's just how things work. But I do feel like we're not developers, so it's easy to point to problems. It's hard to solve them. So I'm not gonna try to solve them. Yeah, there's got to be a way, like maybe making the top five, like only the half of the board, the top five dark houses become immortal. Therefore, making like 500 immortals be the top five dark houses, or doing things like that. You need to do something in there because I feel like the second dark house or the third dark house has no incentive to win. In fact, I'll even go the other way and say that the top two, three dark houses, the ones that are not number one, they'll probably throw the right of exile because they literally have no reason to win. So that's kind of like I feel like is an issue for the shadow side of the house. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think I agree, and I think it's easily fixable. So I don't even remember right now how many people could be in a dark house. Was it 50?
No, well, we got to 80 and we climbed to 80. I'm not sure if you can push more when you can get to the higher level of Dark House.
Okay, so let's just, and I don't even know the answer. So let's assume that there's 100 right in a dark house. So you get the
Mm.
best dark house. They're fighting for it. They're gonna win. Their top 100 people. That means 400 people are going to be drafted into the immortal status. What's up, Aries? Thanks so much for the sub. I appreciate it. So what if they just did, if dark houses topped out at 100? What if they did like the top four, and then you could draft 100 people? It seems a lot less politics driven. Plus, what you said, Nemo, if you have one dark house that's just so much stronger than everyone else, like there's no competition, why even fight for it if you know you can't win? If you're another dark house trying to become an immortal, it kind of ruins it. It takes the fun out of it if you get one group that's just incredibly powerful, and that could easily be maneuvered, right? Like you could with, especially with how great communication is inside of the game and how easy it is to talk to people, you could easily get in touch with people, put together a squad that's not going to be beatable. It's going to be just incredibly OP, and then you could completely run the whole server. You could draft whoever you want. You make deals, right? Because with right now 400 people or so can actually be brought into the immortal. So you make deals, say, okay, let's get our 10 strongest to get like our strongest together from 10 different groups, and then we can choose people that we bring in, and we can make our whole family this strong immortals, and we'll reign in this game forever. No one will ever beat us. Totally doable as of right now. But if you make it the top four dark houses, then it's less of deal making because you have four groups that can actually make the top spot rather than one group where you're going to have to do some shady stuff potentially to try and come in and own that spot. Because look, if I'm number two, right? If I'm the number two dark house and I'm looking up at number one and saying, I'm never going to catch them, there's nothing I could do to get those guys, I'm going to hit them up and be like, listen, what do I have to do to become an immortal? I know I can't beat you. What do I need to do? Because I want to be an immortal. And that is politics. That is human nature. And that is something that you don't want to happen in the game. Could it be easily fixed by allowing the top four dark houses and then draft 100? Or the top five dark houses and you draft no one? Like literally no draft whatsoever. I think Blizzard really wanted this to be a social game, which is part of why the social implementation inside of the game is done so well. So you can't be scared about, okay, you get 4 or 5 different dark houses. They're now going to work together as immortals. How are they going to communicate? Because the social systems are there for that communication. And for groups that are strong enough to become the top dark houses, they're going to be invested in the game, Nemo. They're just not going to be people that are casually playing. These are going to be people that are really playing the game and know how to work all that mechanics. Like they're going to know how to do all that stuff. So the draft brings in politics. I don't like politics in games. I don't like politics in real life. Politics just can get really sloppy, and it could lead to people hating each other, and which can then, if you're talking about a pay to win style game, you're gonna pay after you get defeated. You're gonna pay so that you can come back and get revenge, and that's what happens a lot in a lot of these kingdom builders. You get crushed, so you throw in a bunch of money into the game so you can go get revenge, and it's just a back and forth mechanic. It's very different in Diablo Immortal because it doesn't work that way, but the potential for that same type of politics and that negativity that can come inside of the game is real. And another thing, just because it popped in my head, Nemo, Immortal Burnout. What do you think of that? Is it Is there too much in being an immortal where you could actually just burn out and say, I don't want to be an immortal anymore. I'm not enjoying the game. I'm here managing stuff. I want to play Diablo Immortal. I don't want to be a manager. What do you think?
You bring so many points at me. I don't even know. I probably talk for an hour and a half. This is exciting.
Go for
One
it.
of the things about the whole immortal versus shadow, there's a lot of flavor in here. There's so many different things going on, right? We could spend an hour talking about just one single one of them. Immortal burnout. There's definitely such a thing in my opinion. In fact, I'll jump up on that in a second, but let me take you back for a second. I really like the whole idea. I've mentioned this before in some videos of like splitting the whole shadow dark houses in half. If you have 5 dark houses, because I'll tell you from my original point, like when I was playing, we didn't really have like rules. They just said, here's Diablo Immortal. There's a whole cycle of strife, and they explained kind of what shadows and immortals were and said, go have fun. So we didn't really understand how stuff worked. So I really had like a genuine first feel experience as a shadow. And I'll tell you, when we became immortal, I was a bit disappointed. The disappointment was that I originally thought that somehow, some way, the cycle of strife would turn and the 500 immortals would be the people that participated in the cycle. I didn't think that it was going to be just the top dark house and then they could recruit other people into it, because that's like Echo said, that's where politics and the toxicity comes into place, right? That's where the second dark house says, well, I don't like the top guy and I'm just going to go to the immortals and say, hey, if you make me an immortal, I'll throw the cycle of strife. I'll just lose on purpose. And it doesn't matter what the first top dark house does, because as long as I lose, they can't win. And when you have that type of a step block mentality when it comes to gaming, like there's just going to be a whole bunch of toxicity going on. That's just kind of how it works. But on the immortal side, let me ask you a question. This is what I wanted to ask before. To me, when you have 500 immortals, somebody in the chat was asking, what's the point of being an immortal? What are the benefits of being an immortal? We'll touch on that in 1 second. But let me ask you a question. Is it worth being an immortal? That was my question. As I was playing, and I played as a shadow, I did the whole thing, I beat it, we became immortal. There was a lot of stuff, to turn the cycle of strife, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. Coordination between all the dark houses. A lot of things need to happen in order for this to work. And when we turned, I just kept asking myself, okay, is it worth it? Is it worth it? In the end, when we became immortal and we did all of the immortal stuff, I ascended back to being a shadow. And I did that not because the adventurers got extra score on the update. I did that because I literally did not want to be immortal, because I feel like it's not worth it. Like, what do you get as an immortal? You got to put a lot of work into it, right? You feel like, this is where we're going to go into the whole, when you're an immortal, you feel like you're a foot soldier. Immortality is great for the leader, the 4 lieutenants, and the people that are on top that are performing. For everybody else, you're just a foot soldier doing a whole bunch of work to make sure that the people on top stay on top. And that was kind of my issue. So that's kind of why I ascended down. What do you think? Do you think immortality is worth it?
I think it depends on the player, right? And what they're trying to do out of the game. If we talk to an Echo hack, yeah, I think he's going to say that it's worth it. Like, he wants to get to that part of the game. He wants to be the strongest inside of the game. That's his goal, right? For me, man, I go back and forth if I just want to play as an adventurer or not. But I typically, in all the games I play across all my channels, on my main channel with Clash of Clans and Rise of Kingdoms, like, I'm a more casual player. I'm not trying to be a pro player. I'm trying to teach people some stuff that may be newer to the game, or that are, I'm not trying to show pro players how to be better. I'm trying to take things that really good players are doing and show other players how to do it. So I take a much more casual approach to gaming in general, and I'm the same here in Diablo Immortal. So for my channel, let's use this as an example. When I'm creating content, I'm not going to be making, if you want to be the strongest immortal, follow this in-depth guide that I've put together for you. Now, am I going to give guidance, and am I going to give builds and explain what the game's about to people? Of course, but it's definitely going to be a bit more casual for me. It's just how I make stuff. So that lends itself to me probably playing as an adventurer or as a shadow. Now, of course, I'm going to have to get moments of being an immortal so I can make content around that. But for me, I was an immortal, and I found myself being less excited to get on and play because I felt like I had to do this, and this before I could actually play. And I didn't love it. So for me, I had the most fun in the closed alpha when I started my Let's Play series, starting over Barbarian, brand new, playing as an adventurer, just playing through, grinding, finding stuff, and really enjoying all of the more basic elements of the game, not getting into the shadows or the immortals. With that being said, my next step would have probably been to become a shadow, because you don't have to do anything. You could raid the vault if you want to. You could do a shadow contract if you want to, because in being a shadow, you'll get more rewards, right? So you get your shadow contract, it's an opportunity to get more stuff, to grind a little bit more, which is cool too. But I did not have I didn't have a desire to be an immortal, I guess I should say. Shadow, sure, because it's just really the way that I saw it was, being a shadow for someone that's really an adventurer at heart is just giving you the opportunity for another bounty every day, a bigger bounty with more rewards than you would get from a regular bounty. That's really how it would knocked out for me. Now, Eric, by the way, Eric One Hive, he's here with us on Twitch right now. He's another content creator. He is also a Twitch streamer, and he's a top tier Clash of Clans player, former pro player, and now he is actually my co-caster in the ESL Mobile Challenge when we cast for Clash of Clans. So why don't you guys give him a little bit of a look? Great guy who really has some good breakdowns of Clash of Clans content. Now, he had two questions. He says, for us noobs like him, what's the benefit of being an immortal? And I think we kind of broke that down a little bit. Like, Nemo, do you feel that you get any extra rewards or anything like that for being an immortal? And on top of that, if you're an immortal, I feel your build is already established. Like, you're not looking for that last legendary item. You've probably already gotten it. The only thing that you may be looking for are like 5-star gems or building out your charms. But your gear, if you've made it to an immortal in the real game, not in the closed alpha where we played because there were so few players, but in the real game when there's tens of thousands of players, if you've made it to an immortal, you already have your character build. Like, you're not like dying to get that one legendary piece, most likely. Yeah. So what is there for being an immortal, like reward wise?
Okay, so that's a good point, actually. So let's touch back on that real quick. So when you're an immortal, you do your dailies. Dailies are a little bit easier than shadows. They take a little bit less time, because when you're an immortal, you do stuff like around sanctuary. So when you're some of the things that, like when he was talking about doing bounties, when you're immortal, they're called immortals dailies. And when you do them, they're generally pretty simple. Like, destroy a piece of gear, upgrade something, go do a dungeon, do usually 2 bounties, nothing more than that. And when you do those things, you get gold, you get honor and things like that. And then at the end of the week, if you continually do your dailies, immortals get honor and gold delivered to them. It's like a little bit easier to get stuff when you're playing. Also, when you're an immortal, you have something called the immortal vault. This immortal vault holds a whole bunch of honor, it holds a whole bunch of gold, and of course it holds the gear, equipment. At the end of the week, if you are successfully able to defend the vault, remember the shadows are the ones that are attacking it constantly. If you're able to defend it, you can pick some of the gear. It gets like automatically distributed. Not automatically, there's actually a really complicated system. But long story short, you can get a piece of gear or 2 pieces of gear that are pretty cool, that are in the vault, along with the gold and the honor that you get delivered to you weekly as an immortal. And the only way, of course, to do that is to hold Diadessa's blessing. Diadessa's blessing actually is tied to Kian's ordeal, which is another activity for the immortals that they have to do weekly in order to keep this Diadessa's blessing, in order to keep stuff in the immortal vault. And if they're able to defend the immortal vault versus the shadows who are able to destroy it, they can get this extra gear. So that's what you get.
All right, another question that he has, and he's actually throwing out some really great questions. I'm not sure, Eric, let us know in the chat if you were part of the closed alpha, if you got your hands on it, or if you just watched a few videos. I'm not sure. You possibly played it a bit. He says, so he's comparing it to Rise of Kingdoms, because Eric plays Rise of Kingdoms. He also has played some Infinity Kingdom alongside me as well. And in Rise of Kingdoms, if someone attacks you, you could power up, get your friends, and you can go zero that player. Completely knock them out of the game. Make them lose any money they ever spent. So he's saying, can a player seeking revenge target a player and negatively damage that player's character, like in Rise of Kingdoms? Now, I'll start by answering, yeah, you can't. Once you have your gear, you have your build, you've built everything up for your character, that goes nowhere. Is there any way to negatively impact someone's profile itself, besides like maybe their status as an immortal?
the only time that you can actually do something towards the other player is if you opt into something we call the cycle of strife, and you're able to go in and like take the immortals down. So if somebody pisses you off on the immortal side, you can A, if you're immortal, ascend down and become a shadow, or B, go and join the shadows and then go challenge them in something called the Rite of Exile. This is the basically the end of the cycle of strife. And then if you're able to beat them, you take their place. You kick them out of the throne, and you become the immortals. So that's kind of what you can do. That will damage them in a way. They still keep all their gear and stuff, but they lose their status. They lose a bunch of other stuff. We can talk about that, but you actually get buffs and stuff as an immortal. You will lose them when you're not, when you're not immortal anymore. So,
Yeah, but yes, you will lose them, but there's also buffs that you get from being a shadow and buffs that you'll get from being an adventurer as well. Each one has its own advantage. But I play Rise of Kingdoms daily again. I don't like how vulnerable I can be. If I spend a month grinding free to play and get all this loot and I get attacked, I lose all of that. If I spend $100 in the game to upgrade stuff or to get a bunch of loot, that could be stolen from me, and that's real money. Inside of Diablo Immortal, anything that you spend to upgrade your character or to get legendary crests to unlock gems, you'll never lose that stuff. So it's like Clash of Clans, right? You're never going to lose upgrades to your base. You may get attacked and lose some of the loot from your base, but nothing crazy. So it's not like you have to feel scared to participate in this stuff because someone could damage you. So it's pretty safe there. Now, we do have another couple of questions because we've been talking on this topic for a good amount of time, almost a half hour, Nemo. Any closing thoughts on this, like changes that need to be made? We already said that maybe the top 4 or 5 dark houses make it to immortals, and that's it. Is there anything else that could change to make this a better experience, in your opinion?
The cycle of strife?
And all of it, all of the immortal / shadow stuff.
It's tough with the cycle. It's tough. It's a great thing. There are a few changes that could be made. I'm not sure, like the whole rearranging dark houses and etc. How the immortals work. I'm not sure if that's a little change and how exactly that would work. But I feel like, yeah, there are some changes that needed there to make it absolutely great. But at the same time, if you really think about it, it's not. You don't have to play it, right? You could just. A lot of people, seriously, a lot of people will just play the adventure and not care about this. And you can do the whole Heliquary thing. There's a boss every month that comes out. In fact, I really feel like this is another point that we touched on, the burnout thing of it. When you're an immortal, I feel like the top players will benefit a lot more from not being an immortal, because when you're an immortal, especially in leadership, you have a lot of other things that you have to do. You have to make sure that you keep this band of 500 together. As a leader, you need everyone else to do their job, to collect the dailies and contribute, because that gives you the points that you need to progress immortality, to give you more benefits, to give you more buffs, like to make the vault better. There is the whole vault idea of defending that. You have to have immortals waiting there to defend the vault when the shadows are attacking it. As an immortal, especially in leadership, there's a lot of things that you got to do. You got to coordinate. The Keon's Ordeal is a 48-person raid that you got to get together. Do you know what it's like to get 48 people together in one place on a mobile device? This is going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
So that's going to take away from you pushing and trying to be the best player. So it's like a whole different side of the game. So yeah. I'm not really 100% sure that top players will even want to participate in that.
No,
I don't know.
You have to choose how you want to be. Like, okay, you grind all this gear. You have the most powerful character in the game. Have you won? Is that it? Is that what you were grinding for? Or do you want to take that to go and own as an immortal, just to be, put up as the statue and be the #1 immortal? I feel like if you are the person in charge of the immortals, you're in game managing. You're not even playing anymore. Like, there's got to be a person that is not playing Diablo Immortal anymore, but they are literally a manager of that entire thing. Like, you don't have time to play. You could grind a little bit maybe, but you're organizing people, making sure the 500 in the immortals are doing what they're supposed to, replacing people who aren't. There's really no time to play the game, which is cool because there's tons of people who are into that. There's going to be people that just want to manage other people, and that's going to be fun for them. For me, I want nothing to do with that. That is that's not fun for me. That sounds like work. So I feel like it depends. If you want to be a top challenge rift player and you want to be the #1 in the challenge rifts, you're not going to want to be an immortal. I don't think that's going to benefit you in any way. I think you'd rather be probably a shadow or an adventurer. If you are just someone that wants to go around and build up your character, obviously an immortal won't be helping you. It depends on what you want to get out of the game, what kind of player you want to be. Kind of like we touched on earlier. Nemo, we have a question that came in a while ago, and it's something we kind of talk about every show. We may as well talk about it today too. It's our predictions, and I did put out a couple of videos on this lately of first of all, what's coming in the next beta, as I'm calling it. My prediction is going to be the Necromancer and the final stage, which we're going to be calling Hell for now. I don't think that's even a prediction. I think that's pretty much known at this point, right, Nemo?
Oh yeah, yep, for sure. That's
Yeah.
the final stage is level 60 Necro full game mechanics.
Right, exactly. So that's what we're going to be seeing next. If we want to talk about what else we'll see, will we see the changes to this Shadow Immortal stuff? I feel like Blizzard has to know that it needs to be fixed in some way or rebalanced in some way. I don't know if that's... I hope that it's there, but I'm not sure. And third, PvP. Is it going to be Battlegrounds, or are they going to build off of Battlegrounds? And honestly, man, you guys know what I want. You know that I want a battle royale or a 5v5 mode where your gear doesn't matter, where you can come on into a menu, you could select the build that you want, just like in Call of Duty. You select your weapon, you select your attachments, you select your perks. I would love the same mechanic. Select your class, select your gear, select your weapons, select your skills, and you could have these builds made for you, and then you just go battle it out with other people. You could be a new player or have just grinded a very little bit, and you can get into PvP and be part of that. That's what I see that needs to come to the game. I would rather see that, Nemo, than even see Shadows or Immortals whatsoever.
Oh wow! All right. Well, I tell you one thing. What I've noticed is the Blizzard team is completely on top of this. They were changing things as we were playing, like through the technical alpha and then the closed alpha and all that. While they were like looking at the feedback and getting it back, they were implementing changes as they were going. They were preparing, getting ready. So like I knew basically once the game went back into their hands, once they were able to close the servers down and implement those game-breaking changes that they needed to, they're gonna go straight to work, right? I mean, it's just what's gonna happen. So I do 100% think it's gonna be major changes between, if you really think about it, between the closed alpha and the tech alpha, between tech alpha and the closed alpha, like it blew my mind when we were playing the first one. Like there was nothing like Cycle of Strife or any of that stuff, and all of a sudden they came back with a whole new, basically, game within the game. It blew my mind. So, I'm not saying they can definitely easily do the exact same thing in a month or two, completely just change everything they need to, and go on their merry way with the beta or whatever the next set is. So I do think there's going to be lots of changes coming. I don't know as far as the cycle or definitely the battlegrounds. I absolutely think there's going to be changes to that, because remember, this right here was just a test of the mechanics. I really feel like in this set, in the closed alpha that we were participating in right now, they were just testing out to make sure that the battlegrounds worked, that the mechanics worked, like all the players got in there and they were able to move around, those types of things. And I feel like now is when I would, as a developer, would implement those changes. They looked at it, they got all the data that they need from all the battlegrounds that we were participating in or not participating in, and and then they were able to make those changes. So I feel like battlegrounds next time around is going to be a big up for me anyway. I'm really excited to see what they come up with, especially for the wizard. Because the good old wizard got no love on the PvP side. I was really upset about that. So I'm waiting. My wizard will be there to challenge anyone.
I was
Hopefully
I
it
was
works out.
impressed with your wizard, man. I just did a video the other day, kind of watching Nemo's wizard gameplay, which is actually what we've been watching throughout this this live stream. And I was impressed with how strong that wizard was, and how quickly it was taking down Rift bosses. A lot stronger than I've ever gotten my wizard to, of course. So thank you, Nemo, for sharing that. It was cool to see how it all went down.
Anytime.
And if they do bring PvP that actually works, by the way, my build of it, my thought of it would work, because you're not doing anything. It does not take power. It doesn't have anything to do with your grind. It would work. It's just if they want that game mode in there or not. If they can build it, if they want to build it, no question that it would work. That's another way to play Diablo Immortal. So you'd have campaign players, which are like adventurers. You'd have Rift runners. You'd have people that want to participate in, say, I don't know what you're typing to people there, so I'm going to make sure that I zoom out of that screen.
Oh no, no, no. So this is us going into the cycle of strife. The rite of exile is this is us challenging the immortals.
Yeah.
The scrappy echoes are right here challenging the immortals. So nothing
Yes.
bad. I
I
hope.
was like, what is he typing? Let me just make sure I get out of there just in case.
Uh,
But so you'd have the campaign runners, you'd have Elder Rift people, you'd have the Shadow Immortal people, and then you'd also on top of that have people that just want to do PvP, right? People that just want to participate in player versus player stuff and may not ever grind anything at all. Like, I'm the guy who gets Call of Duty, never does the campaign. I jump right into player versus player. That's it. I mean, people that do all these battle royale games, that's all they do. They don't play a campaign. They just jump into battles. We'd have a massive community of people. I would say, well, first of all, well, yeah, I would say more people would play that than would play Shadow Immortal stuff, hands down. You mentioned earlier, or you asked earlier, what percentage of people are going to just be adventurers, just playing through the game, doing rifts and stuff versus Shadows and Immortals? I would say 3/4 of players that play this game are going to be casual players that don't even care about Shadow and Immortal related stuff. I would easily say 3/4 of the people. And some of the die-hard people, they're going to want to experiment with it. And after they experiment, they may or may not like it. They may say, that's not worth my time. I'd rather do the other stuff. So, I mean, when you think about Diablo 3, it's campaign and rifts, right? Dungeons, campaigns, and rifts. And that's it. The game's been around forever. And that's what people are still grinding, still building for. So, I don't know. I'd like to see the PvP.
There's definitely a lot of different I would say layers to this. Especially with the PvP too. There's different types of PvP too, right? Within the whole idea of how the PvP or the battlegrounds are really the rite of exile. The rite of exile is like the pro battlegrounds. Maybe they should bring like the Keon's ordeal and make it more like easier accessible to the 3/4 of players that are going to be casual. Maybe add in a few modes like you talked about, and then make this whole thing a completely different experience for people who don't want to do other stuff. I know some people asked in the chat over here, hey, can I just play the PvP without doing the campaign? No, you have, when you start playing, you choose what class you want to play, and then you got to take that class to max level. In this case, max level is 60 when the game comes out. So when you get to 60 is when you can start grinding from there, Paragon levels and etc. And that kind of what situates you as a player. So no, you will have to make sure that you beat the campaign at least once if you want to play any of these things. Like the PvP, I believe the Shadows and Immortals, you actively get into that at level 44. I believe
Yep.
43 or 44 is when you get into that. And that's when I believe you get pushed to Battlegrounds. You're able
Yeah.
to see that. Before that, you can't access Battlegrounds.
Yeah, and he's talking about flaws right now, in my opinion. Immortals and Shadows, fine. Have to grind through the game to get an understanding of it before you could play it. But in my opinion, PvP should be available once you choose before you don't even need to choose a class. When you get into the game, when you could choose between your classes, there should be an option right there for PvP, which takes you to a lobby, and from there you could choose the PvP class that you want to play as, and you just jump in like day one, first minute in the game. In my opinion, the way I see it, you should be able to go right into multiplayer battles, never have to even touch the campaign. Because now, if you want to get to PvP, you got to get to level 60. You got to grind for 20, 30 hours to get there. There are going to be tons of players who don't do that, even if they want PvP. There are going to be a massive number of people that just want to do player versus player. They're not going to be I mean, this is a mobile gaming community. The attention level of people right here is a minute. Download the game. I mean, and I'm a victim. I do it as well. Download a game, play it for a minute. If you're not sucked in right away, you're done. Like, that's it. The game's deleted and you're moving on to the next one, especially when they're free like this. So for someone that's looking for player versus player, which is massive right now in all of gaming, they're going to want to experience that from the beginning. They're not going to want to have to grind 20 or 30 hours to get there. They may not have any interest in dungeon crawlers. They may not at all want to do action RPGs, but they may want to do PvP in a hack and slash game. And that, in my opinion, needs to be available from day one. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think that mechanic is going to be built that way, because it does take away from the classic Diablo style of game. It definitely does, and I respect it. I respect for Diablo for what it always was. I still think Diablo Immortal is going to be incredible, even if it didn't have PvP at all in it, but I think it would be better with it personally. So that's my fingers are crossed there. If I give any feedback anywhere, I think Blizzard already knows that's the feedback they're going to get from me. And if they didn't know, they'll probably know after they listen to this. But that's a hope, Maybe it won't even come from the start. Maybe it'll come afterward. But I think it's their best opportunity to literally blow up the mobile gaming space and be the number one game that nothing even compares to is bringing that as well. I'm trying to see if there's any. Oh, we wanted to also talk about quickly when, right? I anticipate they did again, this is all repeat. If you watch Nemo in my videos, we've already talked about this, but I anticipate that the game is going to be back in August with a beta. That beta would include the Necromancer in the final stage. I don't really know what they're going to do about changes and modifications yet, but I think those are probably already ready to go, to be honest with you. I think the Necromancer in that final stage are like, it's tweaking right now and they're just waiting for it to go. So I think we're going to get that in August, mid to late August, and I think the game will get another month or two of beta, and I think we're going to get the full game released at the end of November. That's a prediction based on nothing that I've heard, just based on my thoughts, looking at the release patterns and what I think needs to come to the game. Nemo, does yours differ? I know that yours used to differ, but has it changed?
It has. It has changed, and in fact, I'm much more aligned with you for many different reasons. I don't know. We do not have any extra information that anybody else has, but if you just look at this logically, lots of videos both me and Echo have made, you can go take a look for specifics. But if you look at all this stuff, it lines up. The beta is probably coming, or whatever the next stage is, whatever they call that, is probably going to be coming mid-August. I'm going to say mid to end August for the next test, and then after that I say November, mid-November release, full global release for Immortal. That's my prediction.
So we're pretty much on the same part right there. Nice victory there, Nemo. How'd that feel?
Thank you. It felt very, very good. But at the same time, it didn't matter because the other Dark House is lost, and
so didn't matter at all. I want to get into one more topic here that is actually kind of going back to the PvP, because someone else just brought up another point here, and I'm sorry, just getting some footage ready at the same time. And that is, they mentioned that if PvP is available from the very beginning, Nemo, that people will then get discouraged jumping into PvP and getting their butts handed to them. And I have to disagree, and this is why. PvP has to have some kind of ranking system, right? Let's think of games like on mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG Mobile. You start out as a beginner. In the beginning, Nemo could attest to this. You're playing against bots. You win because all your opponents stink, and you come out feeling like the man. Nemo hit me up. I'm going to call you out right now. He hit me up. He's like, Echo, I just beat everyone. I just won my first round of Battle Royale. Out of 100, I came in first place. And not everyone, but a lot of people will, and it makes you feel, it sucks you in. It's like, wow, you get a taste of the win. Then you rank up a little bit. Still a lot of bots, a couple of players, and you continue ranking up. There is a ranking system. So when you're new, you're not going against people that have been playing forever, unless if they keep creating new accounts, and just to get those easy matches, which of course could happen. But you're playing against people that are at your level. So when you're brand new, you log in the game for the first time, everyone that's their first thing of PvP. And as you get good, you rank up. As you lose a bunch, you go down in ranking, and you're with like players. So I don't feel that the burnout is there in the beginning, especially because it's different too. It's not like a shooter where you need precise aim, where you need to use a sniper. Like, this is like hack and slash. You are going in and just throwing down with people. It's like, it's mayhem, and it could become mayhem. So that's part of the fun of it as well. So I don't think that PvP, if it had a nice ranking system implemented into it, I don't think it would have burnout. I think we'd have a much bigger problem if players couldn't get to it right away than if people could get to it right away and lost in their first couple of matches. Agree or disagree, Nemo?
100% agree. In fact, I feel like the issue here is that a lot of the players that are playing these games, we're in our own little silos. We don't realize that when the game goes global, the floodgates are gonna open, and the general public is gonna get in, and then we're gonna go from being all of the people to being like the tiniest little like third of the percent of the actual full group. When everybody jumps into it, I feel like there's going to be a lot more players, and it's not going to be like if you get in, you have a 90% chance, against going against Echo Hack. and
Yeah.
the top immortals. You know, you're going to be going against people your own level, and they're going to just be like, oh, what is this? A wizard? Let me go and see what the new skill is.
Mhm.
And that's who you're going to be playing against. But yeah, I mean, generally, it's like if you're playing Call of Duty, when you go in there and you get into a ranked match and it's your first one, you're going to get smoked and you're never going to want to play it. So I think it's a given for all games. You're going to want to start slow and rank up, as Echo just said. So no, I feel like this would be great. I'm with you, Echo.
Yeah, I agree. But diehard Diablo people will tell you no, they don't want that in the game. Most of them, I would guess. They're going to want more of a classic style of Diablo. But the mobile community is not the classic Diablo player. They are very, very different, and you have to cater to both, right? But you need to know who your audience is, and I do believe that Blizzard does. By the way, I'm not sure if Red October is still here, but as we're getting to the last 15 to 20 minutes of the show, we will be looking for your random question of the week so that Nemo and I can close on that. So, hey, what's up, Lime? So start thinking about that. Oh, man, and as I was saying that, I just forgot the discussion point that I was going to go into next. So as I think about that, Nemo, I'm going to put you in the spotlight here. Any other
I do have
questions?
one.
Okay, great. Let's get into that, and I'll try and remember.
Well, we were just talking about a little while ago about the whole immortal thing and whether it's worth it or not, and the whole toxicity of the servers. And someone asked, "Hey, well, can you move accounts?" And I know we mentioned that no, you can't. So once you get into a server and you create an account, you can't move it. Someone asked how much time is invested in the account, right? I mean, if you really think about it, that is one of those things that I'm not sure if it's like a double-edged sword, but when you put a lot of effort into it, like my wizard right here, if you take a look, that's Paragon 51. So it took me the entire time of grinding, right? As soon as the game came out, I just hit it hard and I grinded. I did at least probably 2 hours a day at minimum. Most of the time I did more, like some days I did 4 or 5 hours. I've invested into this character. I'm not going to be able to move the character to a different server. So if the server is toxic and there's a lot of politics involved and I want to be an immortal, but I can't, and all this stuff is involved, I'm kind of stuck. The only other thing I could do is create another character on another server and play there. The same way, when you're starting, it's very much important for you to start in the same server that you want to play with your friends, because you're not going to be able to move accounts and you're not going to be able to play with your friends unless they're on your server. So keep that in mind. Also, when you're picking a server, it's very important to pick with the right time frame in mind, because if you're going to participate in things like, for example, the Cycle of Strife, Shadow Lottery, the Rite of Exile, all those things are timed, and there's specific times, there's server time. So you're going to need to be available on those times. So just keep that in mind when you're doing those types of things.
If you want to play that end game, but you should definitely be in a server that gives you the option, because if you start saying you're going to play casually and then you realize, well, I actually do want to play as the Shadows and Immortals, and your time zone is messed up, you'll be waking up at 3 a.m. to participate in stuff. So you keep that in mind. But we did have a comment here from Jake. He says that's why Blizzard should have server transfers, assuming they're going to have different servers. And that's the thing. We spoke about this in a previous episode. Rise of Kingdoms, hundreds of servers, coming up on thousands of servers. They're smaller, much smaller. With tens of thousands of players in servers here in Diablo Immortal, I think these servers, and I'm not sure, but I think they're going to be more regional. So we may get like Eastern United States server, Western United States server. Like, I don't think there's going to be hundreds of servers all over the world. So really, you get one or two servers representing an entire region. That's my thought. Could they change from that? Totally. Could they have smaller servers that you could transfer from? Totally. Would I be, if I was in that position with Nemo with a level 51 Paragon and my server just fell apart and I was very unhappy there, would I pay money to take that character and move it to another server? Absolutely. I totally would, because of the time. I mean, we had this for, how long did we even have this? 2 months? Nemo playing 2 hours a day? I mean, you're talking about 120 hours at least he's put into this account. I'd pay $10 to take this thing and move it to another server. Definitely, 100%, because it's just the time, the investment, and the love you have for this character. With that being said, I used to say that I'm going to be the guy that has that one character and I max it out and make it the strongest character. But, Nemo, I've changed my mind. And I found a lot of fun in playing different characters. And as I paragoned my Crusader, I think I only got him to like Paragon level 20, I started getting a little bored. You know, I had the build that, in my opinion, was the optimal build. It was not, the gems weren't maxed and all that, but all the skills, the gear, and everything that I wanted, I had it and it was working really well and it felt fun to play, but it felt like I was doing a little bit of rinse and repeat all the time. And I had the desire to play as something different. So I went back to that barbarian and it rejuvenated the game. And I would anticipate after paragoning the barbarian, I'd probably get a little bored and I may want to go and play as little demon hunter. So I would go, and I'm going to be the guy, I'm going to have my main in mind, but I'm going to be the guy that has a whole bunch of different characters because sometimes you just want to do something different. Remember, I play these games to enjoy them. Yes, they are my job because YouTube is my job, but I don't like to feel like it's a job. I like to feel like I'm able to play this and have fun, teach people about stuff. And yeah, it's my job, but I'm still enjoying it. I don't want to have to log on to the same class every single day for a year because that's my top main class. That's the only one that I play, and kind of stop having that fun with it. I want to keep the freshness alive. So a lot of players are going to play one character because they're going to want to have that strong character. I'd rather have 6 characters that are all medium in strength, but I kind of enjoy my way around. How are you going to play?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is tough. It totally depends on
Well,
like what kind of player you want to be, honestly.
for sure. And the thing is, one of the biggest factors for me is actually the way Diablo Immortal is made. This is one of the things I absolutely love about this game. The fact that each class is very, very dynamic, and each class has their own unique things that are very, very specific to that class. I say this a lot, but like when I'm playing as a wizard, I take a look at the barbarian, and I'm like, man, I really love the group buff that it gives, or
Yeah.
the fact that you can sprint with a barbarian, or when you're looking at someone else, each one, like class has envy. You know, you're playing with one class, you're like, oh, it's really cool, man, with the other one. So I feel like that is going to be a factor for me. So I'm going to have a range class for sure, and I'm definitely going to have a melee class. At the same time, though, they're going to incorporate hybrid into it, right? Necro could be a hybrid class, or the Crusader is a bit more hack and slash, was supposed to be a hybrid class, or when new things come in here. Generally speaking, I'm going to try with the wizard, obviously, and I'm going to push with the wizard. That's going to be my strongest character and the one that I'm playing with the most. But I'm going to have a melee in there and probably some sort of a hybrid eventually. So wizard for sure, and a barbarian after that. That's how I'm going to play.
Fair enough. I mean, there's no wrong way to play Diablo Immortal. The only thing that would be wrong is if Blizzard didn't give us multiple ways to play Diablo Immortal. So I like that we have the options. By the way, I want to sidetrack a minute here. I want to give a little bit of love to Mattness over on YouTube. You see him in the chat right underneath my comment. Mattness has been a follower of mine, a friend of mine for a few years now. Great guy. He just started uploading his own YouTube videos. I don't even know if you know this, Nemo. He's just starting out, literally just tablet gameplay, but he's bringing us into his experiences of new mobile games. And basically, he tests out a game and he gives us his quick impression of it. Very quick, 2 to 3 minute videos on his channel. Like I said, he's just starting out. So if you guys want to just go over and give that man a little bit of love, just take a look at what he's got going on over there. He is literally brand new. I think he's only been doing it a week, but all the support he's given me over the years, I wanted to give a little bit of support there to him. So Mattness, right now, if you are able to, why don't you go ahead and I wonder if I could make you, I don't know why you're not a moderator. Share your link to your channel in the YouTube. There you go. You're a
I
moderator.
did not know
now.
that.
Yeah, no one does.
Good luck, man.
Now you know. So go give the guy a little love. Nemo, we're getting very close to the end of the show. Any topics that we neglected to share? One more thing I should say before you share that topic is, I don't know if you guys could hear my dog like crying out there. Sorry. We're going to be doing the show bi-weekly, most likely, because we don't have the game in hand right now. So there's only so much we could talk about. We're not going to have a show if there's no discussion points. So we don't want to spam you with shows that don't have any meaning behind them. But when the game comes back, of course, we'll be back with our weekly podcast for you guys. So just so you have an inside look. And if you're here now and you've missed all of our discussion points today, because I think we had some good ones, Nemo, you guys could just watch this back when it's a video on this channel, which is going to be, I don't know, a couple minutes or an hour or so after this podcast actually ends. And if you want more Diablo Immortal videos, I got you covered. So does Nemo. The link to his channel is in the description of this. Now, to that question I asked you, Nemo, anything that we missed here?
No, I think we're pretty much, well, there was a lot of stuff that I have wrote down that we're going to be covering in next week's episode because it's going to take too long. But we
Yeah.
need to push into a little bit more of the Immortal Shadows. And there were some questions that I wrote down for next week's episode. But so far, I think we did a pretty solid one. I'm pretty happy with it. So we're good.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna take one last question here from Red October, and it is in PvP. If you had to choose one, what would you choose? Last man standing solo PvP, so like a battle royale, I guess, or group versus group. What would you prefer? Yes, you.
That's a tough one.
That is tough.
I would do group versus group. I feel like that's more fun, and I always like playing in the group because team play is just more fun. And at a higher level, I feel like team play is just a better game. So because the communication, etc., and being able to communicate with other classes together, that's where I feel like Immortal is going to shine the most. Like I know there is no esports or whatever, but man, when you look at the high level play and you can compare and put certain classes together for like really OP strong builds, that's where it's going to shine the most. I feel like group play is where it's at for sure.
Yeah, now I love both. I would like to see both in the game for sure. But just how you have the different classes, how they could synergize together, I think you would get more out of it if it was a group PvP. With that being said, I'm the solo guy. I always go and play solo things when I play. If it was Battle Royale, I'm the guy jumping in with the solo, not with a team. But I do think overall everything would synergize better together if it were a group. I think you'd get more out of what is actually here in front of us with Diablo Immortal. But Nemo, let's close up shop right now for the week. Thank you, my man, for hanging out and chatting with me today. Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you before we go?
Sounds good. You can find me on YouTube at Scrappy Academy. You can find me on Twitter as well at Scrappy_Academy. I also have an Instagram that I started a little while ago. If you want to see back-end stuff, I do a lot of other things with my car, with my life, and a whole bunch of the crazy things. You could follow me on my Instagram as well at Scrappy_Academy. Thanks so much.
All right, and you guys know where to find me. You know what I do, and I appreciate you guys. I really do. This is this channel right here. Since we've been making content on this channel for coming up on 2 years now, with no real game that everyone can play. It's pretty crazy that we're actually pushing 10,000 subscribers. So the support we've gotten, kind of like the family we've built here, it really does feel like that. It sounds weird, but to me, it definitely feels that way. So I appreciate you guys and really supporting me along the way. And I do think when Diablo Immortal does release this, things are going to be good. I think it's going to be a really good thing for you guys as players, for my channel, for Nemo's channel, and just the stability of us here on the interweb. So thank you guys. We'll be back with our videos tomorrow or the day after. I think I have one releasing tomorrow. Do you have a video tomorrow, Nemo?
I do.
All right. Videos tomorrow. They release in the morning. Make sure you go check them out, watch them, comment on them, love them, and all the great stuff, because your support is incredible. Appreciate you guys coming through here today, and we're going to be out. So we'll see you back in our videos tomorrow. Have a great day, guys. Be good.